All right, all right, all right. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope you're staying warm out there. My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. Isn't that song kind of catchy? Could just sit here and listen to some of these intro songs over and over and over. Like I kind of get lost in them and I forget about the putting myself on the panel. Like, come on, 12, you got to put yourself up there. So, I hope everybody's doing okay. We're not doing Idaho 4 tonight, so I don't know how many people are actually going to be in here for this, but, I hope that y'all enjoy it regardless who watches and who doesn't. Last night was pretty interesting, and it seems like a lot of creators have been doing the documents and even going wild with the theories. You know what I mean? Like, it is really crazy out there with some of the theories that are going on, but I guess the more information you got, the more you have to spin the way you want it to be. I'm going with what the documents say. I'm going with what my friend Jennifer Coffindeffer had to say. And I'm just going to wait this thing out until trial. Because, what else can I do? I don't know what y'all are going to choose to do. I mean, you can go and listen to some of these things or even comment on some of these things. But I can tell you this. One attorney down, one attorney up is not going to make a difference. It's not about the attorneys. It's about the evidence. So if you believe that a new attorney is going to step in there and come save the day for Brian, like I've said before, it's about the jury that's got the fate of his future in their hands, not the attorneys. The jury's going to make the final say. The attorneys are going to present the case, of course, but the jury has the final say. But that's all I really want to say about that. I want to talk about prison life. And I thought this was an interesting documentary. And I hope you enjoy it. I really do. Sometimes it's hard to present things that I feel that you will enjoy. Nina, I just saw your comment on another live. How dare you? You're a pro burger. I knew it. Anyways, let's get to this.
An extraordinary look at solitary confinement.
Try to be normal again.
Filmed over 3 years.
You can't conduct yourself like a human being when they treat you like an animal.
The story of an institution trying to change.
Prison systems around the country, they are beginning to see that solitary confinement creates many more problems than it solves.
To mitigate risk, you need treatment and...
Before we go into this really deeply, I do want to say that even though I do agree that, people that are incarcerated, there are some good people in there that made some mistakes, but they're still incarcerated for a reason. So if you don't like inmates or convicts or offenders being talked about, and you view that everyone is innocent even though they're in prison, and you don't like comments being made about them, maybe this isn't the life for you. And that's all I got to say about that, because, a lot of these individuals that are locked up, unless you've worked with them, a lot of convicts will pull the wool over your eyes and get you to believe anything.
Programming individuals can't be locked down. They've got to be interacting.
And the men trying to move beyond it.
I went from the most restrictive place I've ever been to no restrictions at all.
I ran away, didn't want to deal with anything. Just wanted to be me, myself, and get my head right.
Last days of solitary.
This is the main special management unit. It's a segregation unit for the state prison. And what we have here is we have the prisoners who are down here to do segregation time for disciplinary reasons. Here it is. They are locked down 23 hours a day for the most part.
And like I told you earlier, and these are the ones that people want to scream, innocent, innocent, innocent. Does that look like somebody that you want walking around your neighborhood? That look like somebody that you want? It gets worse from here. I'm just telling you. Because this is what people are screaming should not be going to prison, should not be locked up. Things like that. Yeah, that howl was from a person.
While they're down here, they're angry. They flood the cells. They could be upset about the littlest things, and they just turn into violence. The other thing that they do from time to time is they will self-injure themselves. They can bang their heads, punch the doors with their fists and break their hands. They can resort to razor blades that they find, and they will cut themselves.
Kid. I think you passed out. Kid, I need you to cuff out. That's what you're not supposed to do now, because you're going to me sooner than later. But you take that stuff out the window, you don't have to hold that window.
I have 3 windows covered right now, and one of them appears to be self-abusive. Obviously, he is because there's blood on his toilet paper. Attempted to look through the tray slot, see if I could get a visual on him, and he's got it covered with a mattress.
Kid.
So my only other hope before I have to extract him and bring him out of there, since he refuses to talk to me or cuff up, is that I can see him through the back of the window. If I can't see him from the back window, I'm going to have to go in and take him out for his own safety.
As you can see on that window, there's blood smeared all over. This guy's, sometimes they cut on themselves, sometimes they have all kinds of different variations of things going on there. I've had family that's been locked up, so I'm not being pompous or on my high horse, but you know what? You do the crime, you do the time, right?
So, see, he is smart enough.
Viewing Central. He's in here. What do you
He's got it all covered. So now we have to pull him out.
Bravo 222, I can confirm extraction team. Good to go.
Bravo 222, Bravo 222.
With
You know you're gonna come out. It's a smart way to do this. This is not it.
Bravo 222, team are en route. Stand by, please.
yeah, there are women cars.
Monsters. This is what they create in here.
I have not.
Hell
Welcome.
and monsters. And then they drop you into society and tell you, go ahead, be a good boy. This is what they create in here, monsters. You can't conduct yourself like a human being when they treat you like an animal.
Copy that, 114, affirmative.
I've always wondered, because I did work in a prison as well. I always wondered how people envisioned being locked up. I mean, because it's not like the state sets out to build prisons that are accommodating for people that break the law. I mean, you shouldn't want to go to prison. You shouldn't want to enjoy that experience. I do understand there's things that go on in there that should not go on. But at the same time, I mean, it's hard to protect people from everything because the guards are outnumbered in most prisons. I know they are here in Texas. And the inmates do run the yard pretty much. So as far as having empathy, I do have a little empathy, but at the same time, how many times must you be told not to break the law and do these heinous things and keep coming back? I mean, they're going to be there for years and years and years. And like I said, this might not be your video because my viewpoint on this is totally different than most people because I have worked in behind those walls and I do understand the type of individuals that are behind there, the ones that are kicking those doors like that. I've seen that firsthand. I've seen juveniles do that. I mean, it's an unsettling thing that people want to defend what they don't know.
Turning up the floodlight. Open up slow. Set. Can I cuff up? Are you going to cuff up? Go lay down in your bunk, face first.
This place is like an insane asylum. You can't even imagine. I don't even know how many times I've seen this tear filled with blood from these guys cutting their arms and their necks and their balls, cutting their ball sacks out, all types of craziness. And it's because they're stuck in here with nothing to do. If you don't have a strong mind, this place can break you quick. A lot of guys, they don't even have reasons why. They just snap out. That's what this place does to you. It makes you mean, makes you violent, and it f***s a lot of people's heads up.
most people could not last a day behind those walls. Like to be walking down there and hearing all that noise and seeing all that insanity of hundreds and thousands of inmates. I worked at a farm, even though it wasn't maximum security. They had 2,200 inmates in that place. 2,200. So every time you walked the halls, there was inmates lined up, being shook down, stealing food from the chow hall. You know, I mean, you saw all kinds of stuff. You saw people stripping down. Maybe you didn't even want to see that, but since I worked there, you had to go with the flow. I mean, before long, it just became second nature. In Texas, I know that you can attest to a lot of this.
This is solitary confinement.
My name's Todd Michael Fickett. My prisoner number is 93262. I'm here for arson. In prison for arson. Down here makes you feel like you're being buried alive. You're someplace alive, but you're no place anybody wants you.
You know what I can tell you about those doors? Those things are built for tough. As you can see, they were kicking on them like they were mules. I mean, them things are built tough. I've probably seen one in a long time of those doors being popped. You know, unless the inmates were rigging them, you know, so they could pop them with a spoon or something like that. Those things are tough, man. You can kick on them all day long. Your leg gonna give out before those things do.
I'm down here in solitary confinement for like 6 months for hitting an officer in the kitchen.
That's what you get to do. Sit there and think about your thoughts all day, pace back and forth. That's pretty much 24/7. Like you come home, I think it's twice a week for a shower. You know, you can change your clothes when you want, but you know, you're still stuck in a cell every day. My mental state will probably go downhill like it did last time. I go pretty crazy.
That's how I was driving. Off 90 ass feet. It's crazy. Three man. There was one down here though.
I don't know what that's called in other places, but in Texas it's called, you know, passing the kite. That is what you do whenever you want to get contraband from place to place. They get a string they usually pull from a bed sheet or a t-shirt, and then they tie it to whatever it is that they want to pass along, whether it be a note. You're going to see newspaper here in a minute. It's just interesting. The mind is an interesting place. When you want to get what you want, you'll do just about anything to deviate a way to do it. You know, I've seen ropes made out of toilet paper. I mean, it's interesting how the mind will get you to think about good things and evil things while you're in there. I mean, people have so much time to deviate so many things. And that's the reason they're in there. It's because they can't live among society's rules and guidelines, and they feel that they're smarter than everyone else and that they're not going to get caught. Like, they're not supposed to be doing this, but they're still doing it.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to do it, but we do it. It's kind of funny. If we're just bored, we gotta have something to do. You want to make sure that somebody's around. We can send notes, letters, medications, and sometimes razor blades.
Doc, what's going on? You gotta believe us. We gotta believe it.
Hey, Pickett. Pickett. Pickett, talk to me, man. Hey, what's going on, man? Talk to me.
I can't do that.
How come?
I got f***ing 6 others talking in my head smart ass.
Okay. Why don't you take this stuff down? What's going on, man? Come on. Can you grab a camera in here, please?
That's what mental health you get for not doing your job.
Oh, you can come up and come out.
How bad are you cut? Let me see it. Let me see it. I need to get medical.
Yep.
Like a lot. Now.
Hey, Figgy, do me a favor. Put that towel over there on your arm, okay? Let's just at least slow that bleeding down. Hey, are you welcome to cuff on?
Drink some of your blood, Figgy.
We're going to help you. The first step is we got to get that arm taken care of, and then we can get you some help, okay?
He's a pretty serious cutter, and I've known Todd for quite a while now in his history.
Did you see the amount of that blood with just one person with a little bitty arm cut? I mean, no telling how big that arm cut was, but
He's a pretty serious cutter, and I've known Todd for quite.
So when people say that in other crimes that there was no blood, there's hardly any blood, look at all that blood from one person cutting his arm. And can you imagine what it looks like when 4 people are butchered in their beds? What it looks like? I mean, that's reality right there. That's one person slicing his arm up. So imagine what 4 people blood would look like all over the room. So if you can really imagine this stuff, it puts a lot into perspective. You know what I mean? Puts a lot into perspective.
Quite a while now, and his history of self-injurious behavior is pretty significant. So he does a pretty good job when he does cut. So I mean, he'll go right for a main artery, or he'll tap into something that produces copious amounts and puts his life at risk. So basically, right now, I'm going to see if I can move him to one of our 2 cells that I have that are designated for constant watches. They have cameras built in. They got full glass doors.
Yep, it's inevitable. You put us in here with nothing to do, it's gonna hit the fan.
Another day on the job. It's a real cleanup right here. Probably average about 20 of these a month, so. Yeah, in the last year, I've become an expert on blood, I guess.
It doesn't just mop up, does it?
No, it doesn't. It coagulates. Generally, I try to saturate it with a germicide, and then I use a sheet to mop it up, and then afterwards I try to scrub it down. My heart goes out to everybody down here. I've been behind these doors, so I know what it's like to stay down here for years. You know, being behind these walls, they get to everybody, and everybody deals with it in their own particular way. As you can imagine, someone being 18 years old in a setting like this, you know, it's not really, it does a lot with your mind.
You see that shows it?
Detectives, you said you worked in AgSeg. What would the general stay for them down there? Was it 6 months evaluations or yearly evaluations? How long were they down there?
My belief is the use of segregation has its place when you have real dangerous prisoners, but from my perspective, it is overused throughout the United States. For the normal person who doesn't work in a facility like this, they're going to be thinking, if you punish him, you're going to make him better. And the reality is the exact opposite happens. Putting them in confinement, forgetting about them, is essentially going to make him worse. There's no question in my mind. If I have somebody that comes in with a 5-year commitment, you can have them do their whole time in segregation, but I don't want them living next to me when you release them. I think we need to make every attempt at moving them out of those cells and moving them into general population. I want you out on the other side of that door, because that's good for you to be on this side of the door and not that side. All right? So we got to find a way to get you out so you're not fighting with people. We have some very, very dangerous prisoners. So on the surface, it might look crazy, but the reality is 80% of these inmates are going to be hitting the street. Okay, so we can either make them worse, okay, and create more victims when they go on the street, or we can rehabilitate them.
Outside 2 shadows outside Maryville.
I'm Adam Brula, 10/28/17. Yeah, I've been in prison since November 28th of 2012. Got into a lot of fights in school. Started drinking at 17, getting in huge fights at parties, like 3-on-1, winning, and everybody thought I was the coolest kid, so I just kept on doing it. And then I I went too far and I broke a kid's jaw in 7 places with 1 punch. I landed me an aggravated assault.
Yeah, we had this kid when I worked at the psychiatric hospital, and we had him in a hold, and I had my hand like not around his neck, but like around the front of his body, and I was not paying attention, and I had my thumb up, and that kid just chomped down on it, almost bit it off. I mean, it hurt like nothing I've ever experienced in a long time. It took a long time to get his mouth off my thumb.
All right. Secure Bravo 101 local. Secure it, please.
I just went overboard. That's why I'm down here. I freaked out. I was screaming. I started punching stuff. I got maced and tackled. They're trying to say I started a riot. And they brought me down here. I've been down here 2 days now. I like SEG. I can handle being locked down 23 hours a day because I can read, I can write, I can do push-ups. Most of the time I just chill. You gotta relax. You can't get yourself wound up because you can't leave that room.
Well, it's good to my standards. I'm always at this window, so I like the window to be clean. My face touches it, my hands touch it.
Yeah, it sucks, but I think I'm doing good.
Good. That's a good place for you to focus on.
Bravo 225, open Bravo 225.
I don't know what I can do. My mind races all night.
How many of you could actually do time? I mean, honestly, other than the people we hear about on these YouTube streets that have done this and done that, I mean, honestly, how many of you could do time, do you think? Like, you see that little cell right there? I mean, could you mentally be strong enough to be in that cell and be by yourself? Because that's a lot of these individual problems is they can't stand to be still. They're always into something. They're always scheming something. They're always trying to find a way to get over on somebody or something, or to hurt somebody or hurt something in order to get what they want out of life. And I mean, that's why whenever you lock somebody down or you lock somebody up, they can't stand it. They can't stand it. Some people break. Some people lose weight. Some people lose their skin tone. Some people lose their hair. I mean, it's not meant to be nice.
I got hardcore ADD and I'm about to leave in 5 months. I don't know where I'm gonna go. I don't know where I'm gonna work. I don't know how I'm gonna get a car. I still got $1,000 to pay with no car, no job. When you settle down in your room and you really just start thinking, just bang, 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 all at once. And I need just trying to get some medication to slow that down for now, but that's really the problem. This really kind of my head.
Why are you pissed off?
The people's portions. Oh, scumbag! That's $1 million shot, kid. That's what they call $1 million on the floor.
This guy go at him.
Well, half an hour, I'm gonna let that loose be in the hallway.
Listen, there's no need for this, man. You know that. If you make a mistake, let me know what it is.
Yeah, that's a big thing with individuals that are in a setting they don't want to be in. They flood things. They flood the toilet. They flood the sinks. They make sure everything is flooded. Melissa, if you're not okay, you need to get off here and call 911, please. Okay? I'm kind of reading what you're saying, but I'm not understanding it. If you're meaning in the context of, you can relate to this, or if you're really in a crisis. So if you're in a crisis, you need to call 911.
Can't do anything unless you talk to me. You know that. Come on.
Chris?
If we just leave Brulot in segregation, he's going to become worse. We're going to end up with an inmate that probably will attempt to starve himself. Without a doubt, at some point, begin demonstrating some self-abusive behavior. So now, by introducing programs, we'll work with the inmates until eventually they become less dangerous. And then we could look at moving them back to general population.
Good morning. Good morning. We'll talk about that after. No. I just want to get started because we only got a little time. Class is going to go the same way we always go. Ain't nothing going to change for nothing. No reason.
These inmates have been significantly violent, and they're truly a danger to self or others. So this is going to be a slow process. We'd have Brulot initially in cuffs and shackles. After we developed a little more confidence, he'd be attending the groups just in cuffs. Develop a little more confidence, he'd attend the groups without cuffs and with just one other inmate. And we would gradually work him so that he'd leave that group from segregation into general population, where his program would continue.
So how does pride affect us?
If I show pride, I try to go too far. I start to get hard.
See, I'm all for that. I'm all for therapy, as far as reintegration. I think that's a good idea, work to get them out of solitary so they can get back into general pop. I'm all for that. But, you have to watch out for individuals that could potentially harm others or your staff. So it's a catch-22. There's no easy fix. I mean, there's so many things that you have to work around. It's not just like you do this and this will happen. You know what I mean? So I'm all for rehabilitating them to get them back to general pop.
So you go from pride into do what everybody wants.
Now, I'll be so much cooler if I break this guy's eye socket.
Or if I flood this.
I go do it, then I go higher risk.
You got to find a different way of dealing with your anxiety, your anger, and all that other stuff that comes with sitting in that cell all day.
I got angry. I don't think before I act. I usually don't take responsibility for myself, and I just blame other people. But I'm doing this program. I'm just gonna start taking responsibility. I'm the one up, so can't be pointing the finger.
That sounds fantastic. Number one, honestly.
I've seen it work. I'm an absolute believer in it working. It is our job, to the extent that we can, to rehabilitate them so they can become successful, productive citizens in the community.
My legal name is Samuel Kaysen. Prefer to be called Sam. I'm currently here for a Class A aggravated assault.
Most of my family's been in and out of prison their whole life. I grew up around this. I first drank and smoked pot about 10 years old. By age 14, I was shooting heroin and had already done a couple juvenile sentences. The first time I got in trouble, I got sent to a mental hospital. And then I got sent to a juvenile facility for a year. Well, I spent 9 months in SAG by myself when I was 16. That was the worst, you know, it was torture pretty much. I would bang my head on doors, cut myself, pretty much anything I wasn't supposed to do that I could do with the very little bit I had in myself. I turned 18 and I got sent up here and pretty much spent the rest of that sentence in SAG. Me personally, when I spend too much time inside my head, it's a dangerous thing. Cell extractions are like a game. It's our opportunity to get back to COs. They mess with one person and spend the rest of their shift doing cell extractions. Dumb as it is, the cell extractions, people cutting up is our TV, so to speak. I cut because it's my only way to escape. Obviously, being locked up, you don't have control of nothing. And cutting myself makes me feel in control. Since I came to the population, I just tried to bury myself in programs, but I don't know how any of that's going to work out. After doing all that time in SAG, I'm not a person that likes to talk. It breaks you. When I'm inside my head too much, I get paranoid about things and ultimately get depressed. Depression is not a good thing when you're locked in.
I mean, his cell doesn't look much bigger than the segregation cell. The only difference is a bunk. It has a bunk bed, and it has a regular bed, and it looks like it has, you know, he has his stuff in there. But as far as, you know, being much different than SAG, it doesn't look that much different. Yeah, and you're right, Texas. You can't touch them, and they know that. So people are willing to manipulate to get their way, no matter whether it's by words, by action, by deception, manipulation. Either people are going to change or they're not. I mean, you can't really force people into change. You can try to help them. That's about it. That's about it. And, you know, it's really when society starts to blame the people that are trying to help and paint the victim of the person that's doing all the aggravating, not aggravating, but like the raping, the murdering, the burglaries, the drive-bys, all these things. When society starts to turn and favor the criminal and go against the people that are trying to keep people safe, you have to shake your head a little bit at that and go, do you really understand all that entails of trying to keep people safe from individuals that are just don't care about hurting you or anybody else? I mean, and that's not even to mention the drug addicts or the alcoholics. I mean, there's so many different variations out there, and people are just pro criminal. I don't get it. I don't get it. It baffles me.
In your cell 23 hours a day.
Solitary confinement has the most fascinating history in the United States. The United States was actually the leader in modern times of introducing solitary confinement to the world. It was actually introduced by the Quakers as a noble experiment in rehabilitation. There was a belief that you could put a prisoner in his own solitary cell, freed from the evil influences of modern society. And if you put them in that cell, they would become like a penitent monk, free to come close to God and to their own inner being, and they would naturally heal from the evils of the outside society. It was a noble experiment, and it was an absolute catastrophe. By the 1830s, statistical evidence began to accumulate that there was an inordinate incidence of psychosis, of suicide, and that people just deteriorated. By 1890, there was major condemnation of the institution by the United States Supreme Court. And so the experiment with solitary confinement gradually diminished as evidence became unmistakable that this was causing disastrous psychiatric consequences.
On our special segment tonight, the subject is overcrowding. Prison overcrowding.
The state has the nation's largest prison system and also one of the most overcrowded.
Outdated, overcrowded, and near a state of crisis.
3 times as many inmates.
So after the Quakers experiment, the United States abandoned the use of solitary confinement. But then in the 1970s, we began to put unprecedented numbers of people in prison. And so you had terribly overcrowded conditions and prisons that looked like they were about to become out of control.
Prison populations reached an all-time high in this country last month, and one prison burst under the strain. Inmates set fire to 13 buildings and then attacked prison guards.
The other thing that happened is that there were increasing numbers of mentally ill prisoners coming into the prison system. Their behavior was harder to understand, it was harder to control. Prison systems didn't have the resources to properly deal with them.
Marion, America's toughest prison. Conditions are so tense, officials now say the prison is in a virtual state of siege.
In October 1983, 2 inmates already serving life sentences murdered 2 guards in the same cell block the same day.
Well, in 1983, there were 2 officers within 24 hours that were killed by the Aryan Brother.
It's kind of, oh, wow. It's kind of interesting that you don't really know how you'd react until it happens in your own backyard. If one of your family members or loved ones was a prison guard and somebody murdered them that was already in prison, how would you feel about that? Would you still feel that they were not where they needed to be and they should be out among society and there should be something better for them to be doing, or a better way to convert them or keep society safe from them? Or would you still believe that prison should not exist at all? You would forgive them. What would you do if an inmate murdered one of your loved ones for no reason? There was 2 murdered in this prison the same day.
The staff at Marion were completely demoralized. They felt that we had to do something to protect them from these inmates, and we had to do something to protect inmates from these inmates. The bureau director got involved and said, lock it down. It wasn't just a day, it wasn't a week, it was a permanent lockdown.
The entire prison was locked down. That is, every man was confined to his cell to restore order.
Now there is nearly 1 guard for every inmate. Unruly inmates can be chained to their concrete slab beds for hours, even days.
The high security The lockdown was created out of necessity to maintain control of the inmates, confidence, and protection of the staff that have to face these kinds of individuals on a daily basis. We never wavered our belief that this was a necessity.
Their response to it was to employ very large-scale solitary confinement, put a ton of people in solitary, which took away opportunities for programming, opportunities for social interaction. And that model of utter total control and harsh punishment took off in the United States, so that over time we've developed more and more supermax prisons where everyone.
But look what we did during 2020 and beyond. The government confined people to their homes. They couldn't go to work. They couldn't go about their daily business. So essentially, it was created an environment for people that weren't even criminal minded, and it turned society into a very vicious and violent society where it's all about anger these days. Like here in this town that I live in, some guy lost his life the other day because he flipped somebody off in a road rage incident. The guy he flipped off stopped, pulled a gun, and shot him and the passenger point blank. The driver passed away for flipping him off and getting shot by that guy just for no reason. There was another guy that was in the drive-thru at KFC here. For no other reason, the guy behind him gets out, wants a shotgun in the vehicle, and kills the individual because he mistook him for another person. Well, this is the society we live in. And if you don't see it, or you refuse to see it, it's going to come knocking on your door eventually. And then who are you going to call? Who are you going to ask for assistance? Because there's so many anti-police, anti-government people in this world, it appears. Who are you going to go to when the stuff really gets bad and starts knocking on your door? Because chances are, if you don't believe in the police, you don't believe in firearms either. So you're either part of the problem or part of the solution.
One's in solitary confinement.
I think segregation to a point does correct behavior. For the people who felt we were too hard or harsh, well, what alternatives did we have? What choices did we have? Our job is to protect the inmates and the staff and to allow people to get through their time and go out as respectable citizens, that type of thing. But what are you going to do with those people who don't want that to happen? If you got a better answer, I wish we did. I always said, I wish we had some social medicine or a magic wand that we could use to correct people's behavior, but there's no such thing.
Nothing but what goes on in here. You guys get to go home. I gotta stay here.
If you're asking me, Melissa, I've actually worked in a place like this, so you can feel like it's medieval times, but you know what? To be honest, these individuals would rather take you out for no other reason than you just being you. They might see you as a threat, catch you by yourself, and kill you. Not think anything about it. So being in a prison is nowhere near safer than being outside the prison. So those people that tell you otherwise are just blowing smoke.
What we're going to do with Todd is introduce an individualized program in the mental health unit. We're going to have a clinician working with Todd until we're successful at reducing the cutting behavior. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we'll look at reintegrating Todd back into the general population. We still believe that he presents a significant danger to the staff and the other inmates.
Well, the guards don't have the capacity to put anybody down, Melissa. Most of the staff in these prisons do not carry firearms. They carry probably a baton, if that, and some mace. The only ones that probably carry firearms, if that, are the CERT team, but I doubt they even carry firearms. I don't think anybody on the unit has firearms, so they're not going to put anybody down. They might, put them in restraints or handcuffs or whatever, but as far as harming them and killing them, no.
Todd ended up in segregation for a very serious assault. So essentially, we need to be reassured through programming that the likelihood of him engaging in that type of behavior is significantly reduced.
Have a seat there. You must be Mr. Fix. Awesome. So next is to figure out how you're doing and plan our next steps. So fill me in. Still don't feel very good. Can you tell me a little bit more about you feel like what does that mean?
Just don't want to go.
You still want to what?
Just don't want to kill myself.
All right. I don't even knowing the guy very well. I don't. I can tell you he doesn't enjoy this. The intent isn't to engender any sympathy. The intent many times is to make an officer do things. They feel totally controlled, and this is what they learn, and it's a learned behavior, is that you can control others with this. But it is kind of a pathological way of control because it doesn't gain them anything. It just for the briefest of time, they feel some sense of control, and then they're left stuck again, and usually in worse physical shape.
And just at the beginning, he's still struggling. He's still going to have to do his seg time, and he doesn't want to do it. So there's that kid side of him that just doesn't want to have to, and you can't make me kind of thing. And I'd like to help him through that process.
That's not right. We're down here 40 days now. I'm not eating and drinking. They're gonna tell me to drink something. I'm gonna say no. They're gonna be like, well, just give him what he wants. Education, deck of cards, and medication. Not even medication I can even possibly abuse. Antidepressants and something to slow me down. A day in this cell is like 3 days out.
I mean, it's the same old adage. Would you reward negative behavior? Because that's basically what this is. If you reward negative behavior, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. It's easy to say, just give in. Just give in. Just give them what they're asking. But then they've already gotten in your head, and there's no way of getting that kind of management back.
Out there. Right. I want my education.
You're going to be getting your GED, okay?
I want to do some testing tomorrow.
Okay.
I've been trying anything, and I'm not going to.
Okay.
You put me in the deepest. I want a GED.
Absolutely.
A snap.
You know what? That's a legitimate request. But you snapping isn't going to get it to you. What you need to do at this point is let me try to help you.
I'm done. Let's go.
Okay.
Because y'all saw what they did with the food that they gave them. What did they do? They threw the food everywhere. They were throwing the food at the door. They were throwing the food on the floor at each other. I mean, what that remind you of? I mean, it doesn't remind you of an animal. It reminds you of children. You give them something and they abuse it. Well, do you keep giving it to them? Or do you take it away until they can respect the fact that this is a privilege, not a necessity?
Believe in nothing.
Brulot is a young man. Brulot is impulsive. And essentially, he's going to have to engage in programs. He's going to have to demonstrate the behaviors that we're looking for before we're ready to reintegrate him in general population. He's going to have to show us and demonstrate to us that the likelihood of him being involved with an assault or a crime is diminished significantly. Listen, you got 4 months left. You start behaving and we'll figure something out. Yeah, let me tell you that if you put some behavior together, then we'll take a look at some point moving you out of here so you can be released.
Come on, talk to Led about all the stuff that's going on.
After all fight.
61, 400, 500.
BROULE. I'd have to say 1, 2, 3. Yep. Yes, the third cell down.
Well, right now we have an inmate that's covered his window. He can't see in. He's actually plugged his toilet, flooded the toilet out, pushed feces out the cell doors. He's covered our back window, so we can't look into the back window and see him either. So we have some concerns for what he's doing in the cell for his own safety.
10-9, Burns.
And a prisoner that is boarded up on the lower corridor, refusing all staff orders.
I do not know, but if anybody is, it'd be 611 in the Academy open today.
Unit Manager Allen will be conducting and operating the extraction.
Because in essence, what they're doing is putting the rest of the prison in harm. You know, sometimes prisoners create a situation kind of like a smoke screen to get your attention focused on this. That way they can attack other inmates. That way they can attack staff. That way they can steal stuff. They can manipulate people. Do what they want over here while you're busy tending to these people over here. You don't believe it happens. I don't know what to tell you. Texas, is that true? Can you give me an amen on that? How about you, Bullets? You give me an amen on that? Because I know y'all know what I'm talking about.
Team, I will be assuming incident command 10-3.
The train or the bus, he's going somewhere. He will. You're right, Texas. That guy howling sounds just like a coyote, don't he? I mean, I thought that was a real animal when I first saw this. And it's like, man, that dude is howling like a coyote. I thought that was like outside the prison. You got the
it's a lot. How you feeling today? That's good to hear. All right.
Freezing in that room. There's only the door and there's a crack in it this much.
Okay.
I can barely sleep down here. My mind just races and races and races. I read, I do push-ups, I eat, I jerk off, I do all I can to keep busy. All I really want to do is go to school,
Mhm.
I'm leaving in like 170 days.
Yep.
I'm down to days now.
Yep. We've got staff on board that can help you.
No, I need to do. I need to go to school. And I want my GED. That's all I ask.
Okay.
I'm not going to go
No, I never saw that, Texas. Thank God. That sounds deadly as hell.
out there and scram for another job selling drugs and because I don't have no education.
That's fair. Okay. I told you at your door yesterday, give me a shot. Give me a chance. If I fill you full of then you do what you think you got to do. Okay. And we'll do what we got to do. All right. We'll do our best to get you the help you need. Okay. But I need you to do your part. Okay. You need to keep your head screwed on straight. Okay. Thanks for coming out and talking. All right.
Yep.
Solitary confinement is toxic to mental function. There's a particular illness that results from being in solitary confinement. It's a delirium. It's a neuropsychiatric, almost a medical, a neurologic disease. What we see in humans, we see it in animals, I mean, we see it in mammals.
Now, suppose that in addition to an environment that is merely strange, we produce one that's really frightening.
Dr. Harry Harlow in the 1950s did some experimentation with monkeys, studying the effect of social isolation. And one of his
baby Pearl.
His experiments involved taking monkeys who had been raised with other monkeys, so they were socialized and okay, and then putting them in what was amounted to a solitary confinement chamber.
Distressed. He may die for want of love.
You'd see them rocking and shaking and sort of ritualistic, compulsive behavior. And after some period of time, they brought them out and put them into a cage with other animals. These monkeys were massively impaired. They were frightened, hiding. And then they would have sudden aggression, attacking each other. Very different behavior, very abnormal behavior. There was no recovery. These animals didn't recover from this. One of the important clinical findings with solitary confinement is that people deprived of an adequate level of stimulation become actually intolerant of stimulation. They overreact, they become hyper-responsive to it, and they can't stand it. That's why you see guys getting out of solitary and they just hide in their room because they can't stand stimulation. There has been a recent study that actually showed that this is a reality in the brain. It was a study from the Balkan conflict in which it looked at.
I mean, I agree with all these studies that they're talking about and the things that this doctor is discussing. But we can talk about problems all day long. What is going to make it different? We're in 2025, and we're still talking the same thing as they were back then. What's going to make it different? I promise you, prison today is almost like a hotel resort. It really is. This is real, but the way people talk about prison in 2025, in the 2000s at all, it's almost like a resort. I mean, there's some rock and roll units for sure. Most of them They got TVs, they got the bear, they got the necessities. And most of them eat better out in there than they eat out here. Their commissary sacks are full, 2 and 3 bags at a time. They drop by 60s on people all the time for whatever reason. They get medical, they get all this stuff. So a lot of times they live better in there than they live out here.
Prisoners released from confinement and looked at their brainwaves. Some of these guys had hyper-responsive reactions, spike reactions to a visual stimulus, and they looked at who those fellows were. Semi-starvation? No. Length of time in prison? No. Beatings? No. There was only 2 things they predicted. Head trauma to the point of unconsciousness and a period of time in solitary confinement.
I'm going to share something with you guys, and you can believe it if you want or you cannot. I guess one of the reasons that I think that I could probably make it in a situation like that was because when I was younger, I was placed in some situations where I was locked away from the family, where I was locked in, in an attic or in a room where, due to my bad grades, everything was taken from me. And all I had were the books that I had to study, a mat, and a blanket and a pillow, and that's all I had. So, I made it through that because I wasn't going to let the situation beat me. And I guess when I see this, I'm like, they're just either already psychotic in a way, or they had a predisposition to psychosis that situation brought on. Because I don't believe that anybody that could actually put themselves in a prison, like being in prison in itself would be like a confinement. But a lot of these individuals are walking in a mental prison out here on these streets already. They're just waiting for the eventual self-fulfilling prophecy to take effect, in my opinion.
You lose all feeling. You become immune to everything.
PKC.
You're not the same after spending so much time by yourself in those conditions. I don't care who you are. You don't come out the same person. I did 11 months in the SAG unit. And went from there straight home. I tried to tell my mom and everybody I didn't want anybody around. And I got home, there was 5 people there, and I felt like there was 5,000 people there. And ultimately, for my first couple months, I locked myself in my camper until my mom and everybody tried to explain to me I'm not in prison. I shouldn't live like that. I ultimately tried to force myself to live like I was still in SEG because I didn't know what to do. And then when I stopped, I was out of control. I didn't know what to do with myself. I went from the most restrictive place I've ever been to no restrictions at all. And ultimately, I ended up shooting somebody and coming back.
But you hear what he said? He said, damn it, I always do that. He said he went from the most restrictive place to having all the freedom, and he ended up shooting somebody and going back. because he couldn't handle it. Just like in the Shawshank Redemption. You remember when, what was his name? The old man that got out and he was working at a grocery store. What's his name? Brooks or Books. Anyways, he was working at the grocery store and he lost his identity that he had in the prison. In the prison, he was a librarian. He had responsibilities. He had people to listen to him. He felt important. He got out and he was working as a sacker in a grocery store. He ended up taking his life because he felt like his life didn't have any more meaning because he lost the identity that he left behind them walls.
Didn't know what to do with myself. I went from the most restrictive place I've ever been to no restrictions at all. And ultimately, I ended up shooting somebody and coming back.
Name's Richard Strahersky, 29297. I was convicted of robbery, committing a crime of violence, and possession of a stolen firearm. Sent me here. I was always getting in trouble as a kid. Pretty much, I grew up around violence. And when I was real young, I was in a place for young kids who have like behavior problems and whatnot. And then when I was 17, I went to a regular prison. I did most of my sentence in seg. I think it had an effect on me because it made me where I don't care. It doesn't bother me none. And then it just progressed from there. Got out, went in, got out, went in. Then I ended up in seg here.
I mean, think of some of the individuals some of the creators that you hear on YouTube. Some of them openly tell you they never leave their house. They never leave their house, or they don't leave their environment where they live very, very often. They don't have a life outside of their home. And then you notice how their mental health seems to deteriorate as time goes by, where the only interaction they have is via this camera and this chat. And it seems like they just get more jaded as the days go by. And there's no real rational discussions with these people. Sometimes you got to get out of your house. You got to get out of your solitude, your solidarity of living. I mean, I understand some of them don't have the capacity, but you know what? You can walk in your front yard. You can walk in the backyard. Open the door, get some fresh air. You know what I mean? It's like you got to get off the couch. You got to get out of from behind the camera. I've heard them say that. I don't leave my house. Okay, why not? But yet you're an expert on how people should live their lives in the true crime community. I mean, how does that happen? If you never leave your house and you never interact with quote unquote other people, how are you going to be able to tell me that you know exactly what these people were going through in these videos that you show and things like that? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But anyways, I'm not going on that road. I just use that as an example. But many people are in a mental prison until actually get there. And once people have been in a prison, sometimes they get out and they're still in that mental prison. You can see that in every aspect of their being. The way they talk, the way they enunciate things, the way they put their word together, the way they, want to give you the facade that everything's great now, that I'm free, better than it's ever been. Who are you trying to convince? Because normal people don't talk about how good life is because they're free. They don't. Most people don't even talk about their lives like that. They don't talk about how good life is. Most people are just like, okay, whatever. It's kind of like people that break addictions. That's the first thing I noticed whenever I broke through my situation was I was telling people how great I felt, how blessed I was, this and that and the other. Until one day somebody told me, they're like, bro, do you want a medal or something? Do you want like some cookies, some fresh baked cookies or donuts, or what is it that you're after? You're just doing what the rest of us have been doing since jump. You act like you're doing something special because you're doing what everybody else does on a daily basis. You're not special. You're just joining the rat race. And that person told me that, and it kind of opened my eyes. It's like he hit me in the face with a brick. And that's no truer statement spoken.
In 2003, I was out in population and I stabbed an inmate 23 times. I got placed in segregation and stabbed another inmate out here in the red cages and assaulted a bunch of COs, lit a couple fires, escaped out of my cell. You name it, I've done it. And then they let me back out the population. And to be honest with you, I was weirded out because you're in a cell 23 hours a day. You're not used to people walking behind you, talking to you real loud. And getting out felt really weird. Kind of like first day at school, except like 100 times worse. You know what I mean? It's weird being around groups of people after being so segregated for so long.
How you doing? You get my letter? So how are you and Mom doing? I got to finally talk to my daughter for the first time ever. She actually said, "Hi, Daddy, and I love you." So, no, it's good.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel like a new guy. Wouldn't say man per se, because I'm only 21, but made me feel like a new guy. Made me feel all fuzzy.
Mr. Fickett's somebody who tries to elicit that he's not helpable and he's just into being a nasty guy, but I don't believe that. And I've told him that. So he's sometimes tries to test me and see if I can be brought down to believing that he's really a horrible human being. No, I mean, he's too young to throw away.
It's cool bullets. I mean, to an extent, they were right. I mean, I was probably getting on a lot of people's nerves, for expressing that so early on in my sobriety.
I like puzzles. So I got one for you, Kirkley, and Griffin. I'm going to each give you something to do. I think you're going to enjoy this.
Okay.
And see if you guys put this on a piece of paper. So I'm going to get a piece of paper for you.
All right.
All right, let me get this piece of paper. Now we're at the puzzles time. Oh my God. You see how enjoyable these guys are? I mean,
I think I'm going to pause it right here because this is a 2-hour video. We've already done an hour. I think I'll do part 2 tomorrow. I don't think I have anything scheduled. But Bullet, you or Texas, would y'all like to come up on panel and talk a little bit about what we've seen tonight? If you would, here's the link. Maybe we can talk for a little bit. I know it's kind of getting late, but hopefully we can talk for a little bit. There's the link. How do y'all like the background? I thought it was pretty cool. And I changed the 12 color. I thought we needed a little bit of color because the black and the white's cool, but sometimes we need a little color. Either one of you guys come on up. Just hit the link and come on in. We'll discuss a little bit and then we'll call it a night. Come on, just for a little bit. Won't hurt nobody. Come on, Texas, you can do it. I saw an old video today that I was watching that had you on the panel, Texas. You're talking about a person that was supposed to have been incarcerated and all this other stuff. It was an older video, probably a year ago. Bullets, you want to come on up? I'd ask Aquarius, but I know she's already out of here. She already went to bed. You want to see what my on-call phone looks like? It's an old flip phone. Yeah, I know, Texas. Do the best you can, buddy. You've been up here before. I know you can do it. Just hit the link. You know, as far as criminals are concerned, it's not an easy topic in 2025 because we have individuals that are committing crimes, and yet we have individuals that are advocating for cruel and unusual punishment. That's one thing I don't get about people. They insist that things change just like a thought does, that quickly. You can't just manifest change because you believe that this is how it should go. I saw a comment earlier where they were talking about, you know, that glorious case that we always talk about. And somebody says, oh, yeah, now that there's a new attorney, maybe they'll be able to get those unknown DNA samples tested. Yeah, that's going to be on her to-do list, I'm sure. That's fine, Bullet. That's fine. They don't understand that it's a process. Let me email you and see if you can come in that way. Let me go email you the link. And I've said it all along. It's like people don't understand the process of how things happen in court, with law, things like that. I'm no expert by no means, but I can tell you, that things are very, very interesting whenever people have that concept of thought. I'll email you the link. It says here it is, okay? What the hell is what crap? What are you talking about, Melissa? What crap are you talking about? Oh, that phone? Yeah, that's my on-call phone. I'm on call this week. So that phone rings. I got to answer it. It's like the bat phone. You know, in case somebody breaks the law and is a juvenile, we got to determine whether they're going to go into custody or if they're going to be released to their family. Because not everybody who has something going on goes into custody. That would be just like arresting for the adults. Custody is another language that they use for the juvenile. They go into custody. We take them into custody. So if they're nonviolent crimes that they get caught, we get called because the LE doesn't make that call for juveniles. They deal with the adults. So they call us, we make the call. Sometimes we say, hey, just come into the office tomorrow at this time, release them to their parents. Everything good. But sometimes if it's a violent offense, we have to go pick them up from LA, find a detention place. They'll hold them for 48 hours until they can make their first court appearance. And then you go from there. So if you're going to equate that to the adult system, the adult would commit a crime and then they get bail, right? So that would be releasing the juvenile to their parent. That would be them making bail. Or if they go to jail until they see the judge to be arraigned, that would be the same as a juvenile going to detention for 48 hours. You cannot hold them longer than 48 hours and they not see the judge. So that's what's interesting. I mean, some of this stuff I've learned through these years of working there. I still don't know everything because if you're not using it, you really don't learn it. You know what I mean? Like you can see other people doing it, you can hear it, but if you're not doing that, which I don't do, I do most of the counseling and all that, and I'm, working on my degree and everything else. I don't do all that aspect. You really don't get a feel for it. You know what I mean? Because I'm a hands-on person. I usually learn by hands-on stuff. So we're still waiting for Texas. It's cool. Anybody have any questions? Any comments about the video? Because I mean, these prison videos are interesting to me because they treat people differently in different states, obviously. Not everybody gets treated the same. I know here in Texas, it's pretty hardcore in these units, but Texas, California, no, I didn't see you backstage. Try it again, okay? Texas, California, and Florida, I think, have the same type of mentality when it comes to the prison system. Which is interesting, I think, how certain states can have the same type of correctional facilities. I think this is probably, let me put this up here. Juvenile records don't go in adult records because they aren't sent. They're adjudicated unless they're charged as adults. Thank you for that, Bullets. You do have Q. Said I felt like that about you, 12. I love it. I don't know what you're talking about, but thank you. You're so kind, Melissa. You're so kind. Thank you. My girlfriend watches this and she's like, "Who's Melissa? Who's Rondi? Who's this person? Who's that person?" So I have to explain to her who you are, like who y'all are. Why did she say she loves you? Babe, it's okay. It's just she's being nice. You're good, Texas. Just hit the link, and then when you enter the studio, you hit the button that says enter the studio. Make sure you unclick either a microphone or the video camera. And then once you come backstage, you can turn the camera off if you want. And then, go from there. I know, Rondi. I know. She's like, "Who are these people? They look pretty cool. They're very nice." When people are in chat, and I'm like, "I know. Those are my people. That's my tribe." Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. That's so kind of you. Chove, you have more knowledge than those. Let me put this up on the screen because it's a little over there. Yeah, more knowledge than those that just get a criminal justice degree without any experience. Really? That's cool. That's cool to know. It was funny. I know. I know that's not what you mean, Melissa. I know you're saying that you care, and that's pretty cool. She's not a jealous person. C12 gay, that's not far. We have to know who's buzzing around your tribe. Oh, that's not fair. Oh, you have to know. I'm sure one day I'll let you know. We're not ready for all that because as you know, there's a lot of drama. There you are, Texas. There's a lot of drama that goes on, and I don't want to pull her into any of my drama that I have going on up here on this YouTube world. Hey, Texas, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on, 12?
Not a lot, man. Just trying to describe what this prison life is like.
It's a whole different world.
Yeah. What do they call this right here? This is the picket.
I can't tell. It looks like a Sally port of some sort, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like when you first walk in, before you hit the unit, you just walk through these two gates, and then there's either visitation or, some kind of building.
Yeah, we had a building we had to go in through, and they shook us down going in.
Yeah.
They had an X-ray machine. You had to take off your belt and your shoes and stuff, and put them in a little bucket, and they'd run it through a little conveyor belt, and then you had to walk through a metal detector going in.
See, the one that I worked at wasn't that fancy. They had the little handheld wands. You'd have to take off your belt, take off, your shoes.
We had that too.
I got slick, man. I stopped wearing a belt and I started wearing shoes that you could just slide on.
I wore them zip up combat boots that zipped up on the side.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wore.
Yeah.
So, but your best boots to wear is Justin Roper's, the lace ups.
Yeah.
Because they get the best traction on a wet floor, slick floor, whatever.
Yeah, and those floors are slick, aren't they?
Oh yeah. You know it,
Yeah,
man.
they're pretty damn slick.
But
so
we had to
go ahead.
We had to go through. Let's see, the front gate was actual Sally Port. Then we had to go through a Sally Port at one in one building, and then we had 4 cafeterias with the sally port in between them to go from A side to B side, and 8 building in Seg, and the infirmary was all on B side. So I had to go through 3 sally ports just to get to where I needed to go.
Wow, and that takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah, that first one really does, man. Especially when it's cold outside and you got to take your shoes and stuff off. Man, we've got
Right.
to freezing to death, you know.
Rondi has a question for you, Texas. Did you ever get attacked?
A what?
Did you ever get attacked?
A tattoo?
No.
Yeah, I
Did
got
somebody
one.
ever attack you?
Oh yeah. I had piss thrown in my face. I had a guy jump on me. He was from 8 building, and see that's G5s and P5s. What they categorize it. Next step is SEG for them. I was in SEG and I was going out on break, going out front one day, and I was going to go through the mailroom and see a buddy of mine. He'd got his hand slammed in the door.
Oh,
And,
man.
yeah, so he was working, light duty in the mailroom. And
Right.
I went through there, and it was a woman field boss, and she had this inmate pinned up against the wall, and I went and asked her, I said, Lisa, what's going on? And she said, oh, this idiot won't give me his ID. She was wanting to write him up for something. And I knew where he was from, and I was over in SEG, and I knew he was from 8 building. He wasn't supposed to be over without. He was supposed to have 2 escorts.
Right.
And we had a little altercation, and he jumped on me, and he got tore up. He got tore up bad. They said, "Why didn't you gas him?" I said, "I didn't have no gas." I said, "My gas is in the picket back on F pod." So, but
Right.
yeah, that was my last use of force, and that's when I realized, it's time to quit.
Yeah.
Lay it down. It took everything I had, but it all worked out in the long run.
So that's a big thing, man. They don't want to show their IDs for nothing. I saw so many confrontations over a damn ID.
Well, I tried to give him slack. I told him, I said, man, just get on back to 8 building. You ain't supposed to be up here. And he popped off, and then I popped back off to him. And next thing you know, he was jumping on me. And
oh, man.
He got pretty well. One of the wardens got a hold of him too. I had to go to the captain made me go to the infirmary to get checked out. I mean, I had blood all over me, but it wasn't none of mine. And I had to go, and I peeked around the corner, and he had a goose egg about the size of a baseball, about on his left side of his head, just above his eyebrow, and not quite on his temple. And they were sewing him up, and he was hollering and screaming, and
Yeah, I bet those Justin boots are good for other things too, right, Texas?
Oh yeah. When I rode the field a little while, and I like using them spurs too.
Yeah.
So, but
I mean, let me ask you let me ask you a question, Texas. That video I just shown, people think that's just for theatrics. They think that the criminals really are just choir boys, and they behave, and the laws are just out to get them while they're locked up. You think that's true, or you think that you've seen it?
No, man, they're just trouble. They were born trouble. And some of them, like I told you earlier, some of them really are ill and have issues. But
Right.
you can't have all of them like that. The ones that really have problems. I had one guy one time on F pod down in SEG. That's the worst pod on the unit. It was in the back of the building, and whatever went right down there. And that's where the guy threw the pee in my face. But I had this one guy. He was bad about smearing his stuff all over the walls and everything.
Oh man.
And I walked by there and you could smell it. I said, it sounds like somebody's not going to get to eat for a day or two unless they get that house cleaned up. Boy,
Wow.
a little while later, you walk by through there, boy, and you can smell that bleach. Boy, he done scrubbed that whole house down. I got it, boss. I got it. Yeah, I see. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah, sounds like somebody don't want some dinner, huh?
Oh, man, I'd put it on them quick. They'd be on a water diet in a heartbeat. I had another one. His name was Teddy Weems. I'll never forget it. He was just trouble. He was funny, but he was just trouble. And when I first had him, I had him on 8 building, and I was brand new, and he was in there. It's been that long ago, and I was on nights, and he lived on the 3rd row on 8 building, and he was bad about. I don't know how he made these fireballs, but he would make fireballs and throw them outside the cell and catch everything on fire. Of course, nothing's gonna burn. It's all concrete and metal,
Right, right.
Well, we were up there one time, and he threw one on, and we had a firebox with a fire hose all wrapped in it in a cage. And I run up there with a fire extinguisher, and then this was a whole pod now, 3 rows, and I think it was 36 cells, 12 on each row, and two in each house, and it was full, and it was about, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And I shot that firebox. It was on fire with that fire extinguisher, and it had that halon in it.
Yeah.
Man, they had to put that whole pod out on the rec yard because it took all the oxygen out of the air, and they couldn't breathe. And I shot it underneath his door, and he was a black guy, and I turned him white. He was white.
Oh man.
And anyways, he ended up going to SEG, and every time I would come on my 4 days on, I could smell he had been having a fire, and I'd look up there first thing in the morning. I said, all right, Weems. I said, I'm down here. We ain't going to have no fire these next 4 days. Oh, no, gee, we ain't going to have no fires down here. So, I got along with a lot of them. I mean,
So you worked down there in Beto? Is that where you said you were working?
I worked at the Michael unit.
Okay, the Michael unit.
Yeah. And I always wanted to go work Super Seg over at Cofield, but I never could get in there.
Yeah, Tennessee Colony, those 3 prisons over there are rock and rollers, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Isn't it Cofield, Beto, and
Cofield, Beto, and Michael are maximum security.
Yeah.
And then Gurney, I don't remember exactly what it is.
Isn't it a medical unit? Sounds like one. Psychiatric.
There's another one there. I don't have the name. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it. And I never worked it. It was an intake unit.
Okay.
Let's see, Pallage. That was the intake unit. And now Gurney was a cakewalk, but the guy that shot Chris Kyle and his buddy, he was at Gurney for a while. I guess they had him in medical at Eddie Ray Ralph.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to have got over there and worked and been on with around his cell.
So what made you get into correction, Texas? I mean, was it hardcore back then, like to get in, or
No, not really. I mean, dude, when I first went, man, I thought, oh God, what have I done? Because when they shut them gates behind you, man, the deal gets real.
You're so right, buddy. You are so right.
People,
that first Sallyport door slides. Kink.
Oh man,
That's it. That's it, bro.
But being in a day room by yourself with 36 inmates running around in the day room, you don't know what's going on. You can't keep up with all of it. But if I worked A side, man, I'd get up in a picket and they'd just stick their hand down. I'd pop the door for them, tell them shut the door back on their way out or way in or whatever, That was
Yeah.
A-side was easy, They was lightweights, but that B-side, boy, that B-side's something else.
You got a couple questions. One of them asking, what was the population where you were at? And the other one asked, did you know what they were in there for, most of them?
Not most of them. I knew what some of them was, like Elmer Wayne Henley. I looked him up. Some of them I didn't want to know because I would have treated them real bad.
Right.
Just hardcore. And I think at our unit, total, there was probably anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000, I think. Something like that. That's including, there were some dorms, so.
And people don't realize how many damn people that is, right? I mean, I don't
Right.
think they have an understanding of what over 1,000 people in a unit looks like or feels like. Like what I was saying earlier, you walk down those halls, there's people on both sides of the halls getting stripped down. They can't look, they can't look at you. The women are, I don't know where you were, but when the women were walking down the hall, they had to turn and face the wall.
Yeah. They're supposed to, but a lot of women started wearing them smocks,
Yeah.
So, it got to where, after a while, man, I could be walking along, I could point at the wall and they'd stop and turn to the wall. But like I said, I was, I was cool with a lot of them.
Yeah.
I had this one guy, him and his brother had murdered a mom and daughter and tried to steal the car, but they didn't know how to drive the car. He was dumb as a box of rocks. I don't know, that's all I knew about it. He was in the inside rec yard one day in Seg on F-Pod, of course. And
Right.
I went in his house, and they got them little clear, it's like a clear plastic case, but it's an AM FM clock radio.
Yeah.
And I went in there, and of course he was hanging on the fence, looking. What are you looking in there for? What are you looking for? And I was digging through all this crap because I could,
Right.
And I found a little bitty old homemade screwdriver, and so I got it and put it in my pocket. And I walked out and just left the door open and smiled at him. He said, "You want to put me back up, G? You want to put me back up?" I said, "Yeah, I'll put you up." So, of course, there's a little sally port, going into the rec yard. They open one door and they shut it. Then they'll turn around, put their hands through the gate, and you cuff them. And then, you open up the other one and bring them out and put them back in their house. And then, of course, they'll stick their hands through the food. You shut the door and they stick their hands through the food slot and you take the cuffs off. But I told him, I said, "Yeah, I found you little screwdriver." He said, "Oh, man." He said, "Gee," he said, "that's how I make my commissary, man, fixing people's radios and stuff." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give it back to you." I said, "But don't you let me find it again and don't let nobody else find it." He said, "I got you." And, I never had a problem out of that guy ever again, because I did him that one favor. I mean, he didn't have no commissary.
Right.
So he was fixing other people's stuff just so he could eat,
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, some of you got to have a heart, but then some of them will try to take advantage of it.
Right. You let them do something once, it's almost expected from there on out.
Oh yeah, I was on 8 building one time, and I went up on 3rd, and I kept smelling something. I thought, "What in the hell is that smell?" It was a weird smell, but I just didn't know what it was. Well, anyways, I went and looked in the shower, and I found a big old like a big 50-gallon trash bag, and it was full of hooch.
Yeah.
And I thought, God almighty, and it stunk. God, it stunk. It was orange. I don't know what they made it out of. So anyways, I drug it down 3 rows of stairs. They were all out on rec yard. And drug it out out to the front desk. And I told the sergeant, I said, his name was Purvis. I said, hey, Purvis, I said, look at what I found. And of course, they were all out on the rec yard, and we had a big door right there. We were locked, and they were locked in there. And they had a urinal out there. And Purvis said, you want to have some fun? I said, yeah, sure. He said, you got to take a leak? I said, yeah. He said, let's go out here and take it out here on the rec yard. So we took it, put that bag in that urinal out there and started peeing it. And he was saying, yeah, y'all want to drink some of this now? Come on and get you a drink of it. And they were having a fit, boy. That was hilarious. That was funny. But I mean, we had some fun. We had a building tender that we would get if we had to work the weekend, he would store we'd go to commissary and he would store all our stuff for us and then make us a spread on the weekends. Man, you talking about good food.
Yeah.
It was good.
You know what's crazy, Texas? I don't know if you ever saw it on your unit, but if they want to get at somebody, they heat up a candy bar in a bag, get it nice and hot, and throw it on somebody or some cheese. That's gonna peel the paint or peel the skin right off, man.
Yeah, it'll burn the food out of you.
Yeah.
I didn't never see anything like that that I can remember. Man, I've seen so much.
Yeah.
And been gassed so many times, and sometimes that gas wouldn't bother me, and then other times, boy, it knocked me to the ground.
Yeah.
And
we had to go through the officer training as well, like the new boots. See, all the counts are on our unit, so we still had to go through the training with the new boots. So we had all the stuff going on that the guard did. You know what I mean? They, all the agility, all that crap. I mean, we didn't do the agility; they did all that, but we had the classes and all that stuff for I think it was 30 days, maybe.
Seems like it used to be 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Seems like it used to be Monday through Friday, I think.
Yeah. I didn't want the classes. I didn't want the classes to end, bro. On the last day of the classes, they take you over to do a tour, and that's when that Sallyport it closed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're like, then all of a sudden you start walking in and you take a look, and everything cool for a while until you get to the dorms, right? Then all of a sudden you start hearing all the banging on the windows, the yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering. It gets loud.
Yeah.
It gets
it's crazy.
Yeah.
The Michael unit was it was one of the first units that was like what's pictured here on the screen. All the other ones were what they call those telephone poles, long and straight.
Yeah.
And, it opened Michael opened in, I think, 1987 or 88.
Oh, wow.
And it's been a real rocking place. There's been a couple bad things happening before my time. One woman got caught in a storeroom with an inmate. I don't know who it was, but I had some buddies that was working out there at the time, and he just, man, he was wrong. And her husband's daddy was a state trooper, and they had to stop him up at the front gate. He was going in there. He was going to get that guy. He was mad, but they took him out on a stretcher. So, he got his.
Did they have weights when you were in there? Because when I was working in there, they had taken the weights off the yard. They just had the machine weights.
No, we did not have no weights at all.
No weights at all.
No, like I said, we were maximum security.
Right.
So they didn't have no weights. They had little handball court and a basketball court, and that was it. So
did y'all have those?
how you was on, in general population.
You see in some of these prisons that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
In SEG, we had in each section we had an inside rec, or we had 4 outside recs. So
Okay.
we could run 5 at a time per section. So that's how we did that. But man, I have seen them break pieces of that chain link fence off and make shanks out of them.
Yeah.
So you got to watch them when they're out there. Because they'll get pieces of that chain link fence and make shanks out of them.
Yeah.
So,
did y'all have those individual? I mean, they call them dog cages, but you know what I'm talking about, where the individual that can only come out for an hour, they have their own little caged area where they can do push-ups or run in there. And
well, we just, like I said, we had in SEG we had the little rec yards. We had one inside rec for like F-Pod had 3 sections to it. So we had 3 or 4 outside rec and 1 inside rec. And we'd go by in the mornings and write it down, tell them rec shower, and they'd either say yeah or no or, whatever. So that's how we did it. And once we got the list filled, then we'd turn around and go back and start moving them.
right. Well, let me ask you a question, Texas. I know that you go around these chat rooms, and I know that you hear, individuals speaking their stuff about being locked up and all that stuff. Do you believe a lot of that stuff, or do you think a lot of it just for entertainment purposes?
There might be a couple.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple, I think, but I don't know if they're as hardcore as they say they are.
Right.
Them hardcore ones aren't going to talk about it.
That's what I've always heard. Like real gangsters don't talk about gangster stuff. And it's like everybody's a gangster until it's time to do gangster shit.
Yeah. Well, we had a MS-13, a high-ranking official in SEG on B-Pod, and rumor had it he was running the whole unit at the Michael unit. I don't know. I never got a chance to talk to him, so I don't know.
Y'all have problems with burning out the electric socket due to the tattoo guns and stuff like that?
The stingers, yeah.
Yeah, the stingers.
Yeah. Well, we could go in between each cell, and we could cut their power off or shut their water off, whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah.
We could go in there and do that. I had to do it a couple times, but not very many, because they knew I'd do it and I'd leave it off.
Back in the day, Bullets, I don't know over there, but here they used to have those metal locks, and people would just get those and put them in a pillowcase and go after it. And then they made the plastic ones, but the plastic ones can still do a lot of damage. Most of the offenders lift weights with those books in the commissary bags.
Right, I've seen that.
Water bags, stuff like
that. Yeah. Whatever, man. They make do with whatever they can make do with. You wouldn't think, but a bunch of them cook out of their toilets.
Man,
they scrub them toilets down.
I know they do, buddy. I know they do.
And
but I still wouldn't. It would never be clean enough for me to eat out that boy.
Well, I mean, they do what they do.
But I guess if that's all you got, that's all you got.
Right. Right. And I mean, you get down in there, so that stuff's hardcore.
Yeah.
Not all of them's gonna cause you any trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, any given day, any one of them could be, get up on the wrong side of the bed.
Of course, anybody's going to have a bad day. I mean, even out here. So, it's just like it's its own little city, pretty much.
It is. It really is. I mean, you think about it, you get all your food there, everything you want, is right there. But
Man, I got to the point where I was very picky what I ate at the ODR because, ODR is the officer dining room.
right,
Because the inmates cook your food. They cook the food, they serve you. And, I don't know if they were playing around, but there was word going around, don't eat the beans or don't get the mashed potatoes and gravy, or don't get any of that stuff.
right.
And you're just like, you only get so much time to eat. So it ain't like by the time you walk through all the damn security, get shaken down, get to the parking lot, get to a restaurant, get back, your lunch is over.
Right.
So,
you're only supposed to have 30 minutes.
Yeah. I didn't eat no beans, and I sure as hell didn't get no gravy on my damn mashed potatoes.
You never took a bite of beans and bit down on it, had a rock or two in it?
No, sir, man. No, sir.
Yeah. I finally got used to the chicken patties. They wasn't too bad.
Yeah, they weren't too bad after a while, man.
But I
I
tell you,
ate them dry. I ate them dry. Two pieces of bread.
Well, we had a hog farm on the Michael unit, and I would go down there, and if I had the chance and get one of them guys down there to cook me a pork steak, and man, them things were good. Them things were real good.
I bet.
And they cook them. They make little old grills out of stuff, and it
Yeah, take your own lunch. You're right, Rondi. Melissa, I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe Texas does. She asked, if there's martial law invoked, what happened to all the prisoners? Is it still like it was 25 years ago, or what do they do now? I don't really know. Are you still there, Texas? Well, we lost Texas. He's still on the screen. Maybe he got a phone call or a text or something. He'll be back, I'm sure. So I don't know the answer to your question, Melissa. I really don't. I guess since they're locked down, ain't nobody getting out. I'm sure that the officers that they got working when that's invoked, they're going to stay there because there are some houses around the prison that you can rent. The officers stay in them, high-ranking officers, captains, people like that. You hear? Texas? Shane told me if martial law happened 35, 45 years ago, the workers would walk out and leave them. You're muted, buddy. Hit that mute button again. It's kind of like when Katrina hit. I think that the officer just left them in the building because what are you going to do with all those offenders? I mean, you can't necessarily, bust them anywhere that quickly. I mean, they only had a couple of days, maybe a week, and they didn't know how bad it was going to be. You know what I mean? So a lot of those prisons down in Louisiana, there was a lot of people that died in those prisons because, I mean, where were you going to go? Where were you going to go? Yeah, I'm sure I saw that, Texas, but I'm going to wind it down, buddy. I'm thankful that you came up here. Maybe we can do it again. For the rest of you in chat, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Always a good time. I hope you enjoyed your evening with 12 and the rest of the people in chat. We have a very good chat going on. This is a tough subject, and I know that it's controversial, but, we have to talk about it sometime or other, right? But anyways, I hope you know what comes next. I want the maestro to cue that music, and I'm going to change it up tonight. Here we go. Part 2 tomorrow night, same time. And also Saturday, I'm going to do the Ellen Greenberg case. I'm going to do an update on that. And it's going to be a long one. So please let others know that are interested in that case to come in and check it out. But y'all have a good night. I'll talk to y'all soon.